Hello, this is Joe Saunders WBO middleweight champion of the world. Subscribe to Sporting Icons to stay in touch with all the top news. God bless you all.
Now, one name I'm seeing pop up a lot over the last couple of weeks is Billy Joe Saunders, former two-weight world champion, WBO middleweight, WBO super middleweight. Last time he fought was in May of last year, so you're talking, 14 months ago, something like that? Of course, he lost to Canelo Alvarez. Now, it's no secret, okay, for those of you who've been with me for quite some time, you know that I'm a massive mark for Billy Joe Saunders, okay? I love Billy Joe Saunders, and I've consistently said it. I believe that he is one of the best natural talents that Britain has ever produced. He is. Unfortunately for Billy Joe, his shortcomings are self-inflicted for a lot of the time, okay? And listen, he'll be the first person to admit that, I'm sure. But I like Billy Joe Saunders, and I'd like to see him come back, but at what weight? Ideal world, middleweight. I think if he can make middleweight again, he'll clean up. I don't see anybody in the middleweight division who can beat Billy Joe Saunders right now. Honestly, I don't. I think you put him in there with Charlo, he beats Charlo. For sure. You put him in there with a Triple G like Golovkin, I don't think Golovkin can land the glove on him. But in order for these kind of fights to happen, listen, Billy Joe Saunders, he's got one fight left on his matchroom deal. In an ideal world, Billy Joe Saunders will come back and he'll have a tune-up fight, whether that be at super middleweight, even light heavyweight, however. Have a tune-up fight. But are Matchroom going to let him have his one fight left as a tune-up? No, of course not. They're going to want to see him in with a big-name player. And maybe Billy Joe Saunders is only interested in big-name players, but ideal scenario, he'll come back and he'll have a tune-up. Now, maybe Matchroom can let him go fight on a small hall show somewhere. Listen, Billy, go hit up my pals in Phil Jeffries. Go hit up Matty Jobs and that. Do a small hall show. Go under the radar with it, okay? Just get in the ring, get a few rounds under your belt against a journeyman, gatekeeper, whatever. Get that one done, and then go fulfill your contract with Matchroom in a bigger fight. But if he can't make middleweight, to go back onto that point, then super middleweight, cool. Now, obviously the belts are tied up right now with Canelo Alvarez being undisputed. Maybe Billy Joe Saunders can work his way back into becoming a mandatory champion, a mandatory interim champion, however. But to do that, I'd like to see him take on, say, a David Benavidez. I would, or a Caleb Plant. I'd like to see him take on one of these guys. And again, I wholeheartedly believe Billy Joe Saunders beats them two. I do. Now, there's been talk about him maybe having a rematch with John Ryder, a rematch with Chris Eubank Jr., these kind of guys, which domestically is fantastic, of course it is. I'll be honest, I'll probably be more interested in a Chris Eubank Jr. one than I would a John Ryder one. I love John Ryder, and I think he's been given a raw deal, to be honest with you. He went through the mill, and John Ryder's been through everything that he's been through. He finally gets a win over Daniel Jacobs, and he's supposed to get a world title shot. What's happened? There's tumbleweeds. So maybe that could be somewhat of his world title shot, a crack at Billy Joe Saunders again. But other than that, I mean, what kind of fights are there for Billy Joe Saunders? I mean, maybe he'll come back as a light heavyweight. I think for Billy Joe, as I said, I'm a massive fan of Billy Joe Saunders. I would probably worry for him at light heavyweight against some of the big guys. I would, because he doesn't punch hard enough against these kind of guys. He doesn't. But at the same time, they're bigger, which means they're going to be a little bit slower than Billy Joe. Billy Joe Saunders has... What makes him so great is, outside of him being a southpaw, of course, which is always going to be very difficult, is the fact that his feet are unbelievable. When he's on point, when he's confident, when he's on it, it can't be touched. So if he's going to be fighting bigger men, they're going to be a lot slower than him, so he can just outpoint them. But as I said, ideal world, he'll go to middleweight. Now, who's he training going to be? I heard he's going to be, or he's currently training with Ben Davison. Is he going to continue with Ben Davison going forward? Don't know. No idea. Will he go back to Mark Tibbs, Jimmy Tibbs? Don't know. Maybe he'll link up with Tyson, with Sugar Hill, or maybe somebody. I don't know. Okay. But again, maybe that's one of the inconsistencies with Billy Joe Saunders. Obviously, he's with like a Dominic Ingle and that for a while before, which I thought when he was with Dominic Ingle, that's when he really applied himself, where he really was pretty consistent with his weight and everything. He was. But if I could advise Billy Joe Saunders, of course he ain't going to listen to me, who am I? But just give himself 2 years. Give yourself a deadline, 2 years, 5, 6 fights, and give everything you've got. Live in that gym. Live and breathe in that gym. Because I don't want Billy Joe Saunders to get to the end of his career, retire, look back on his career and go, I don't really give everything that I could have done. I could have done so much more. Now, don't get me wrong. He'll look at his bank balance and go, brilliant. He'll look at his record and go, you know what? I fought and defeated some very good fighters, which he has. He really has. He's a 2-weight world champion. He's got 2 belts in his cabinet. British champion and all those trimmings. He's done fantastic. Excellent career, really. I think very overlooked by a lot of people. But if he can just apply himself for 2 years straight, just give everything that he's got. So at the end of those 2 years, whatever he achieves, great. If he falls short, hey, you know what? He can go back and go, I tried. I gave everything that I could. But as I said, listen, I like Billy Joe Saunders. I always have, so maybe I'm being a bit blinded by my bias with him. But I do think that he's an absolute super talent. And there's big fights out there for him. Maybe down the line, he can get that rematch with Canelo. Maybe. Why not? And yeah, I was picking Billy Joe Saunders to defeat Canelo Alvarez. I was. Unfortunately, that eye injury went the way that it did. But if it wasn't for the eye injury, how would that fight have gone? I don't know. I do feel that, in parts, his tactics were a little bit wrong. I felt that he was a little bit too stationary at times in that fight. I do. He was ducking too much. And ultimately, one of those ducks is arguably what caused his orbital bone to break and whatever. But hey, you know what? People lose. You know, Billy Joe Saunders and no fighter out there should be defined by an undefeated record. You're going to lose. Does he have some self-pride hurt? Of course he does. Of course he does. Not just because he lost, but with the way that he lost. Public perception and all that kind of thing. All right? Hey, it is what it is. But as I said before, I'd like to see Billy Joe Saunders come back. Ideally, middleweight. I truly, truly believe that nobody at middleweight can touch him. I do. Middleweight, that's going to be a bit more competitive. But as I said, there's fighters out there, such as a Benavidez, who really struggles to make super middleweight. I don't know even why he even bothers, to be honest. I think that kind of weight drain, Billy Joe Saunders, it'll just pepper him all night. Dave Benavidez would literally just be chasing him all night. He really would. Charlo, I don't think Charlo would land a punch on him. Honestly, I don't. But hey, listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay, I'm okay to be wrong on anything. I really am. But anyway, listen, that's my thoughts on it all. Hopefully, Billy Joe Saunders does come back. If it ends up being a John Ryder rematch, cool, I'll watch it, of course. If it comes back to be a Chris Eubank Jr. rematch, cool, I'll watch him. Of course, listen, I'm always going to watch Billy Joe Saunders. But as I said before, ideally, get a tune-up fight. Don't fulfill that Matchroom 1 fight remaining deal just yet. Just go on a small horse show somewhere. Okay, I'm sure he knows enough people. Okay, who can slot him in? Who cares about the money? Who cares about the opponent or anything like that? Just get like a couple of rounds under the belt, under the radar. That's not broadcast live on TV. Why not? Anyway, listen, that's my thoughts. You drop me yours. Click thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.